right, so I'm here with Gaber and Aoife, and we're going to talk about how to set up a website using GitHub Pages. So let me just open up a tab so you guys can see it better. Right. Right. So you guys should be able to see my browser window there. Just see it. So that should put the stream onto the screen. All right. So if we go to GitHub/Mooney, you can see the Make Good Buying Rhythm project. So we can see we've got these files in here, and then we've got the link set up there, and so here it is. And so looks like there's an issue where the text isn't being parsed from Markdown into HTML.
Oh, I just copied and pasted it in there, yeah, because I really couldn't figure out how to put
I see.
put the Markdown file.
Okay, yeah. So I think the reason for that is that you've got two branches here, and so your GH Pages branch is the one which is published to the web, and then the master branch exists with all the files in it, and you've got a file here which has got some Markdown text in it, and then you've got this HTML page which is kind of been created somehow.
Yeah,
it looks like you then copied that.
Going everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. So I recently put together this very simple web page on GitHub, and so there's a couple of tricks that I used, which I guess you guys would be so familiar with. But the main thing is that there's just one branch, GH Pages branch here, and then you can see the GitHub website of this, and it's just very simple. There's no CSS basically; it's just plain HTML. But you can see that there is this index MD, and it's a link to the README. And so the README is displayed, on GitHub on the page like this. And if we go into the README, we click Edit, you can see it's like the Markdown source, and then that's being automatically converted into HTML here. And so there's a couple of things that we need to activate the Jekyll system, and so the main thing is we need the _config.yml file, and then that can have some kind of metadata, like the title and description, and what kind of Markdown process to use. But basically, this could even be like an empty file. I think it just has to exist, and then that turns on the Jekyll processing. And so in Aoife's repo, then we don't have that file, and so if we did have a Markdown file here, it wouldn't be processed.
So, Dave, I tried to install Jekyll on my system, and I kept getting all these errors, like I didn't have permissions for stuff, and because it needs Ruby and a whole lot of other things, and I couldn't get it to run on my computer. So then I was trying to find workarounds, and that's why there's bits stuck everywhere because I was kind of.
That's fine. So I mean, you don't especially need to have it installed on your computer. Yeah, setting up the Ruby stuff is pretty straightforward. You just need to know the kind of Unix stuff, which I guess you don't know. So that's why the permission errors were kind of strange. Yeah, I guess we can table that at the end. So so the gem install. The site that you have is, let me just put the screen sharing back on again. I'm sorry, is that a terrible loud noise?
Not okay.
Alright. There is a terrible loud noise here. So this kind of standard blog theme I think is fine. Uh, and so I think what we want to do is to have the markdown file here. So what we can do is we can merge these two branches together. So we can see that, let's see, here, I think it's graphs and then network. Oops. So we can see on the graphs network page that we can scroll back in time, and okay, that's interesting. So that the GH pages branch was created by GitHub, and it's not connected to the master branch. So we can nevertheless merge these two together. And so the way that we do that, try that with the GitHub interface, or we can try it on the command line. What would you prefer, Eva?
It's on the GitHub interface, or what was the other option? Sorry.
Like the terminal.
I really don't care. Either of them is kind of.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you want to do it, and I'll talk you through it, or do you want me to just do it and talk about what I'm doing as I do it?
So there's actually nothing in the GH pages branch. Like, I only made that because when I was going through the GitHub documentation, it said that your site should be on a GH pages branch, and then everything else should be somewhere separate. So there's nothing actually there to merge. So I just couldn't figure out how to delete it.
Oh, okay, that's fine then. So if you do screen sharing, maybe you can do it from your side.
Okay. Okay. Can you see that?
Yeah. Yeah, we can see everything on your screen.
Okay, cool. So, how do I do this? Do I just literally? No, I'm so confused.
So if you go to the terminal.
Okay.
It's the app, so you want to use the launchpad or search.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. There. Yes.
All right. And then, do you remember what folder it is that you're keeping the Git repo in?
Yeah. It's just called Biorhyme. This guy. So do I just?
Oh, hello, Zainab. I see you just joined.
Hi, sorry I'm late. Had some technical difficulties.
That's all right. That's normal with Google Plus. It's rubbish.
Yeah.
So we haven't already got to do much. Basically, I just looked over Ether's repo and kind of explained how it's not set up yet.
Okay.
It's kind of half set up, and then the way that I did a little experiment to set up a very minimal, simple Jekyll website, and so we're going to try and get that kind of simple, basic thing set up for Ether.
Okay.
Okay, so back to the terminal.
Yep.
And then if you go to the Finder window,
Yep.
you can drag the folder in the title bar into the terminal. Yeah.
Oh.
From the title bar, not the sidebar.
Sorry. There we go. Okay.
Yeah, if you can also drag it back into your sidebar since you deleted it.
Yeah, I'll do that in a minute.
All right. Okay, great. So it's in the Sparkle Share folder. Okay. So what I suggest you do is quit out of Sparkle Share, the top menu bar, and then it's not gonna get confused with what we're doing manually.
Okay.
And then in the terminal, if you go, if you hit Control A to go to the beginning of the line.
I think it's still working. Should I wait?
No, it's okay. You can wait for it to finish.
Control A to go to the. Okay.
And then type CD for change directory, and then space, and then hit return. And then you can type git branch, git space branch, and then that will list the branches that you have locally. And hit return. So you've only got the master branch. So if you want to delete the remote branch, you would type git space push space :gh pages.
Okay. Git space
Push
and then
no, space, other way around. Yeah, space :gh pages. And this basically says to push nothing into GH pages. So there's like nothing before the colon. So when you hit this,
yeah.
hit return, and then you say yes. And then you put in the password that you made when you generated your SSH key.
When I generated my what?
When you made the SSH key, you would have created a password. It won't be shown when you type it in, so you can just type it in.
Okay, I don't know what that password is. I don't know what a SSH. I feel totally out of in the dark here. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Let me think. When we set up the GitHub, then we created a encryption key for the secure communication with GitHub, and it seems that you added a password when we did that. So we can try and create a new key.
Okay. I have no idea what that password is. I'm just gonna. Oh, maybe that's it. Did I get the right one?
Okay. So if you go to your GitHub page on the web browser there, background, and then go to your username menu at the top right, and then go to settings, and then SSH keys. Okay. Okay, so only the SSH key for Sparkle Share is added. Okay, so if you go to a new tab, and then you search for add SSH key to GitHub. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. Okay, so now let's run through this process. So you want to copy that line without the $.
Yep. And run it. Yep.
Yeah, that's good. That looks good. Yeah. So okay, so you don't have an SSH key. So the reason that you're confused is because I was confusing you. Because in fact we didn't do this, and maybe it was with Thomas or Blondina or something.
Okay.
So okay, so that clears things up. So the reason it didn't work is because it couldn't work. There was no SSH key, and you don't remember creating a password because you didn't create one.
Okay, good.
All right. So yeah, so basically just run through that like 6-step process that's on the GitHub webpage. So,
Okay. And what? So this is probably a really stupid question, but what is this like?
So okay, so SSH it stands for secure shell, and a shell is another word for like terminal, basically. And so in Unix, like terminal computers, then back in like the 60s and 70s, people worked on like mainframe computers. So the mainframe computer was probably in another building somewhere, and then the actual computer that you sat and used was actually not a computer. It was like a keyboard and a screen, and then it was connected to the actual computer. And then as computers got like cheaper, then you got actual computers that then had to connect to the mainframe computer over the network. And so that was like remote login. And so Secure Shell, SSH, is a remote login system which is secure. And it's like a standard way of doing any kind of like two-way communications on internet servers.
Okay. Okay, cool.
And so the security, like the encryption stuff that's set up in SSH is, very, very kind of widespread. And so GitHub is kind of like a massive mainframe in a way, where you're doing your changes on your computer, and then you push your changes up to the GitHub mainframe. And so it uses the SSH system, even though you may not be logging into the GitHub server in a traditional way. It uses this mechanism to do that.
Okay.
And then the other thing that you would probably ask is the encryption uses what's called public key encryption. Do you know what that is?
No.
Yeah. So public key encryption was this big breakthrough that happened publicly in the 70s. The British had actually figured it out in the Second World War, but they kept it secret because it was too powerful. And it's a very clever idea that prior to the 1970s, then in order to do encryption, then you had to send someone the password to do the decryption, and that could easily be intercepted. And that's like what happened in the Second World War, where the Germans had an encryption system, and the British got hold of the decryption part of it, so they could read all of the German messages. And so a public key encryption basically takes like the encryption system and splits it in half into a public part and a private part. And that means that you can distribute the public part, which is the encryption part, to everyone, and then you keep the decryption key private to you. And this allows people to encrypt messages and send them to you, and only you can read them.
Okay.
And you never distribute the decryption key.
Okay.
So if you go back to the web page instructions, in step 1, it lists the files, and so you can see you have these ID RSA or ID DSA, and then .pub, and so those files are the public keys, and the ID means the key means an identifier, and then the second word is the kind of encryption that's being used.
Okay. Okay.
So step 2 is to use the SSH key generator to generate some keys.
And all of this is just to allow GitHub to or my system to connect to GitHub. Is that right?
means that you won't have to keep entering passwords all the time.
Okay.
So you run this process once, and then you don't have to type in a password unless you create a password for your key, which is in step 2.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. So do I need to do all of this in order to remove the branch?
Yes.
Okay. Is this useful to everybody else? Like, should I?
Yes, everyone else will need to do this. Everyone else will need to do this, and it doesn't take. It's taken me like longer to explain it than it will take to do it.
Okay, cool. All right. So do you want me to run through this then?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So I did that first guy, and now I'm going to generate a new SS page.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is this exclusive to wanting to use Git through terminal or command line?
So when you use Sparkle Share, it sets this up for you automatically. If you use another graphical interface, then I guess that it won't do that automatically, and but it can use. So yeah, you have to delete the example email.
Okay.
So if you use another graphical program, then it will probably rely on the details that you set up like this.
Yeah.
Are you using a graphical program?
Yes. Although I can use it through terminal, I just think it's kind of easier to have. Of
course.
Like,
yeah. So I doubt that which program are you using?
I use GitHub's own.
Yeah, because that's like quite. I would say it's become kind of oversimplified. Like it doesn't have a lot of features to do some of the things that you may need to do.
Okay.
So I've used it, but what I end up doing is a kind of mix of terminal and user interface, because for some things it's very useful, but it can't do everything.
Right. Well, I mean, so far, my sort of relationship with Git is that I know how to do everything I need to do within my workflow, but if somebody suggests something outside of that, I become completely sort of frazzled.
Sure.
So it's very limited, but it's also at the same time functional for me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where had I gotten to?
So, Eva, I'm sorry, I wasn't watching closely. When it asked you for a passphrase, did you type one?
I did, yeah. And then so this is what it spit out at me. So then
okay. So if you entered that password, you'll need to enter that passphrase every time that you want to push to GitHub. So I actually wouldn't. I actually don't put a passphrase there.
Shoot. Okay. So how do I undo?
so if you type. If you press the up arrow twice, then it returns. No, down one. Yes, that one. So that lists the files in the home directory .ssh directory. So that was originally just known hosts, and now you can see we've generated the public and private keys.
Mm-hmm.
So if you type rm for remove space and then ~/.ssh/ and then ID, and then hit tab, and then type star,
okay,
and then hit return. Then that will, the star is like a wildcard, which means anything after this.
Okay.
And so then if you press arrow up twice, and then hit return, you'll see those files have been deleted.
Okay.
And so now if you press up like 4 times, then you get to regenerate the keys again.
Okay.
So this will create new keys. So you can accept that application, and you can just hit enter for no passphrase, and again.
Okay.
And so now you've got a key without a passphrase.
Okay.
And then you want to copy and paste that line. Yep. I think just the key though. Yeah.
Yep.
And then you want to run SSH. You can skip step 3 part 1, so just run step 3 part 2.
Okay. So wait, do I still need to have it copied, or should I just copy that?
Oh yeah, you can copy that in there and then copy the other key. Yeah, that's that.
Okay, and then I put this in there?
No, just hit return now.
Okay, sorry.
It's alright. And then copy that key. Oh, actually, sorry. No, it's all wrong. So step 4, just follow the instructions. I got it wrong. So you run the pd copy in order to copy it.
Okay, so I'm gonna do this guy.
No. Step 4.
Step 4? So I just skip step 3 altogether, is that what you're saying?
We did step 3.
Okay. Yes? Okay. What am I supposed to I just did that?
Yeah.
What?
So in the web page, your terminal's kind of hiding it, but if you go to the other tab, you can now click Add SSH key.
I see. Okay, and then I just take that guy, is it?
No. It's the pd copy command that you just ran. Copy the file into your clipboard.
Okay.
So you could call this the name of your computer or something. I don't know.
Okay.
A MacBook. Yeah.
And then I just paste it?
Paste it. Yeah.
Okay.
And then click Add key.
And does this have a password or not? Like I didn't enter.
This is your regular GitHub website password.
All right.
Okay. So go back to the instructions. And then there's a test. All right.
Okay.
So now we can run that git push command.
Okay.
So if you type Control R,
yeah,
and then type in push, and then hit return, and then type yes. That's strange. Okay. You can press Control C to cancel that, and then press the up arrow, and then press the left key to go back to colon, and then add origin space before the colon.
Origin space before the colon?
Yeah. Got it. Yeah, and then hit return. Okay. No, that's fine. So you would do git checkout -b space -b space gh-pages. So this checks out the branch gh pages. You can hit return, and now you can do git pull origin gh pages. I hit return. Okay, so now do git status. Okay, and then type git space rm space index.html. And then type git space commit -a.
-a?
dash A. Yeah, for all. And then, okay, you need to type, you need to hit escape.
Okay.
And then type :WQ. And then you can type git space pull. All right. So now if you press Control R and push. Oh, actually, no, I remember what this is. If you go to the web page, if you go back to the first tab, and then hit the back arrow, and again, and again, and again, and then go to the settings icon on the right sidebar. Then you need to change the default branch to master. So now you can go back to the terminal, and now you can press return. There we go. So now that's deleted the GH pages branch that was there.
Okay.
And now if you run git space checkout, sorry, git space checkout space master, then you've switched back to the master branch. So now if you do git space branch, list the branches you have. And now you can do git space, you can hit the up arrow and then add space -d and then gh dash pages. And then hit return. Okay, so hit the up arrow and change the D to a capital D, like it says. You have to use that left arrow key. Yeah. And then add an S to the end. Up arrow. Yeah. All right. So we've now deleted the GitHub servers GH pages branch, and we've deleted the local one. So now if we type git checkout -b GH pages, yeah. Then we switch the master branch at that point into the GH pages branch. So now we can run git push origin.
Wait, I thought, I'm so confused. I thought I just deleted the branch GH pages.
You did.
So how am I switching to it?
In the last command, in the checkout, so the checkout command with the -b argument means that you check out the current commit into the branch GH pages. And so it says switched to a new branch, GH-pages, which implies that that branch has been created.
Okay. Okay. So we're making another one.
Yes, we've deleted it. We've deleted the branch called GH-pages, which is, removed what was there. And so now we've recreated one with a copy of what is in master.
Okay. Oh, so we do need 2 pages? Or
No. We're doing it's a bit complicated. So the first thing is we've deleted the existing GH pages branch.
Mm-hmm.
But we've now done that. The second thing is to copy the master branch to the GH pages branch, and we've now done that. And so then the third thing will be to push the GH pages branch to the GitHub server. And then the fourth thing will be to delete the master branch.
Oh, so it has to be a GH pages branch.
So the GH pages branch is special. You can call a branch name whatever you want to, but if you call it GH-pages, then the GitHub server will make that branch, the contents of that branch available on the web.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. That makes a lot of sense. All right.
So we've kind of done this kind of switching where we've, you progressed the work in the master branch, and then you had this kind of like initial GH pages branch, which we've deleted. Let me see me.
And where did the data on GH pages go? Because supposedly you deleted it and you copied what's on master to GH pages.
Yeah, it was replaced by what was in the master's branch.
And what was on GH pages? Where did it go?
It was deleted.
Well,
it's like you save on top of something, whereas what was there previously gets replaced by what you've just added.
Okay.
My question is, I think you sent this to me as a comment on GitHub, and I didn't actually understand it. My question is, when we're going to host both the project and a project site under the same repository, wouldn't the project go on the master branch and the pages and the website contents go on the GH pages branch? I didn't understand why I would delete the master branch.
Well, you could do. I think that it just complicates things. I think it's just easier to have everything in, like, have one. So
you would put the project files also in the GH pages branch?
Yeah, and then they're available on the web. So if you wanted to link to them, then you can link to them and then users to download them.
Okay, as opposed to going through GitHub to.
Well, exactly. I mean, you could still do it if you still have the web page branch and the project branch. Then the web page can still link to individual files.
Yeah.
They would be linked to via the github.com/blah blah blah URL, and you would have to manage that, a little bit more. Whereas if everything is in one branch, and that's the GH pages branch, then everything is being exported to the web via GitHub's web server, and the linking to the files is like you just link to their,
it would be like from my URL, basically.
Yeah. So you would have project.com/sources/file.glyphs, and that would be where you could download the glyphs file from.
Okay.
And it doesn't really matter. I mean, it just makes things a bit more complicated that way.
Okay.
So, Dave, just in terms of like keeping the file structure manageable, like, because you're gonna have all of the stuff to do with the website and then all of the stuff to do with the development. Like, should we just keep all the typeface stuff in one folder? Is that what you're saying, kind of? And then, yeah, okay.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. So so we go back to the terminal. Okay. And then you do git space push space origin space gh pages. So that's pushed the new branch to the server. And then we can now go to the GitHub webpage again and set the default branch back to GH pages. Okay, and now we can do the same thing but with the master branch. So we do git space push space origin space colon master. and then that deletes the master branch from the server.
Okay.
And then you can do an ls to check everything's there. Yeah, so that's your regular master branch, everything's there.
Yeah.
And then we could do git branch dash capital V master. A D for delete.
Oh, sorry.
And then the master branch is gone.
But that content's not gone though, is it? Oh god.
Sorry?
That content is gone, is it?
No. That's what I mean. That's why we did the ls, just to show you that everything was still there.
Okay, cool. Good. Yeah.
So now we can create the underscore config.yml file.
Oh, that's my
So the Unix command to create a file is touch. So if you type touch space underscore config.yml. And then what's your text editor? Is it TextMate or
I have to. Where's
Text Wrangler?
Yeah, I think I probably do. I don't really use. I just use TextEdit for everything. So let me see what I have. Do I even have any of those things? Is any of this useful?
So TextMate
I don't think
is Libre one.
Okay, I'll just go get it then.
Yeah. Yeah, you can grab the 2.0 beta. And then if you do a Google search for like GitHub TextMate, no, it's third item search. That's right. There's a GitHub help page about using TextMate as your editor.
This one? Sorry,
The
really.
third item. Associating text editors with Git.
Okay, so.
So step one. So if you run TextMate.
Yep.
And then go to the TextMate menu on the top left. Preferences. That's up to you. I mean, I would allow it. And then terminal. And then click install. So this means that you can now run mate and then a file to edit that file with TextMate.
Okay.
And now if you go back to the GitHub webpage, it explains that to use
what you just did will allow TextMate to do what?
So that means that you can edit a file using TextMate via the command line.
Oh, okay. Like make it like the master editor through the command line.
Yeah. So now if you go to the terminal, you can paste in that git config line, and that will mean that you use TextMate to edit your git commit messages.
Okay.
So you remember we had to do that kind of weird thing where I was like escape : W Q.
Mm-hmm.
So that's because the default text editor in terminal on Mac OS X is Vim, which is Vi improved, and Vi was a classic Unix text editor, and it was designed for that, like basically for SSH, for like remote login, where if you were using like a really, really slow modem in the 1970s, you would want to be able to type in editing commands and have them sent off to the mainframe, and then the mainframe would update the display and send like the display commands back to your like little computer. And so Vim was designed so you could edit stuff without seeing what you were editing.
Okay.
And so it has these two modes, like control mode and writing mode. And so to save the changes, to write the changes to disk and then quit the program, you hit escape to switch to control mode, and then :WQ to say write the file and quit the program.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this is just a terrible user interface from the 1970s.
Okay.
And that's why it exists this way, and that's just what it is. and the reason that it's there is because you're guaranteed on every Unix computer to have a Vim, and so it's like it's actually a standard interface. So by running this git config command, then we say that instead of using Vim, then we're going to use TextMate for those things.
Mm-hmm.
So
type in TextMate, right?
So yeah, so TextMate is a regular editor, and with a graphical interface, and so we can close that untitled file now, and then in the terminal you can type mate space and then underscore and then tab, and then hit return, and then you can say YAML as the grammar, which means it will do the highlighting sensibly. But this is a blank file, so there's nothing to highlight just yet. Okay. So if you type markdown : space, space, and then cramdown, KRAMDO.
That?
Yeah.
That?
Yeah. Yeah. And then hit return, and then save the file, and then close. And then also we're going to move that proposal file. So do a git space mv for move space, and then type capital L lowercase I, hit tab, and then type like just all lowercase, like introduction.md. And hit return. So that. Oh, okay. You didn't add the file yet.
I did. Yeah, didn't I? Yes, I did.
Maybe you did, but SparkleShare didn't pick it up.
Maybe I put it in the GH pages one. Did I?
What does the .md file denote?
It means it's a markdown file.
Okay.
That's... Okay, well... I made it. I don't know where I put it. So
maybe SparkleShare didn't add it.
No, I'm just worried that I put it into GH pages earlier, and then we deleted the contents of that. But I still have it, so it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. So what we would do is we just we'll run the original command.
That's it there. So should I just reopen
Oh, okay. No, it's fine. I think it's fine. The file's still there. It's just not added to Git. So the file exists on the hard disk, but the version control system isn't managing it. So if you in terminal hit the up arrow and then Control A to go to the beginning of a line, and then function backspace to delete forwards.
Say that again?
If you press function backspace on a Mac keyboard, you delete forwards.
Ha, good trick.
Function backspace. Okay, and then what am I deleting?
And
Right
then,
down.
exactly, and then the T, and then hit return. And then you can do git space status, and it shows us that we have these two files. So now you can do git space add space underscore, hit tab, and then lowercase I, hit tab.
Lowercase I and tab?
If it didn't do anything, you can hit I twice. You can hit tab twice, and it will, no, I, and then hit tab twice, and it will show you the things that it could complete to. So then you need to do INT, and then hit tab, and then it will complete the whole. And then hit return. And then commit that, so then you do git status again. And you can see that it's added these two new files, and then you can do git space commit space -a. And now it pops up Markdown instead of Vim, so then you can type your commit message in the first line, so like adding introduction, and the Jekyll config.
Jekyll, like, do I underscore?
Yeah, I mean, this is just the commit message. This doesn't really matter too much. Just so you can see what was happening in that commit. And then when you save and close that file,
Yeah.
then the commit is made. And so now you can do git push, and then just hit return, and it will use the current branch and origin by default, and it's pushed it out there. And now if you go to the GitHub webpage and hit return, refresh, then you can see that you're adding introduction commit is there, and the file is here, and there we go. So, so now if you go to the top, you've got your link to the page.
Mm-hmm.
And now,
Okay, cool.
if you go to introduction.html, if you add introduction.html to the end of that.
Oh, sorry. In here?
Mm-hmm. Hit return. Oh yeah, okay, so there's one more thing that we have to do. So we need to add what's called the front matter, is what Jekyll calls it, to the Markdown file. Mm-hmm. So if you go back to the terminal and then type mate space INT and hit tab. Hit return. Okay. So basically at the top you need to add 3 dashes and then a return, and then you can say title, colon, and then you can say introduction, and then hit return, and then 3 more dashes, and then another return, and then hit return, and then hit save, and close the file. No, you minimized it. But actually, close it. And then type git commit, and then you can do -m, and then in quotes you can say like adding front matter, and then end quote hit return, and then I'm sorry, you hit up arrow and then add -a to the end of it. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And so that, instead of opening the text editor, we've just added the commit message like on the command line. So then git push to push that up. And then go back to the web page. And click on there, and then go to the introduction.html. Okay, so there's your markdown text, and it's been converted into HTML. Okay. Yes. So the next step is that we can use the Jekyll sort of like templating system to add some kind of like standard HTML structuring to the page and the CSS stuff like that. Okay. So,
can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's templating through Jekyll.
Mm-hmm.
Does it provide you, let's say you set up certain elements that sort of are present in every page or every post.
Mm-hmm.
Does it then provide you with some kind of notation to correspond those elements into Markdown? So like, this is what I've asked my friend who
mm-hmm.
is helping me out.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I asked him to do was to sort of translate what CSS I had prepared outside into or consolidate it with the structure that was Jekyll/pool.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I asked him was, well, okay, so that's cool, but now how will I be able to, when I commit posts in Markdown, how will I be able to identify certain elements that we have set up in the structure with Markdown notation? Like, how do I say, like, I know how to make things bold, italic, etc., but how do I say, for example, this is the caption when it corresponds with a picture that is above it or something like that?
Well, so the Markdown processor, converts Markdown into HTML. So you can have fragments of HTML in your Markdown file, and then they are, then they're not processed by the Markdown processor.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't have to be. It can be sort of. Okay, I see what you mean. Okay.
So Markdown is extremely simple, and so something like a caption doesn't really, it doesn't really exist in HTML.
Yeah.
You have an image, and then you have another text element, and then you can place the text element under the image to make it into a caption. And so in your Markdown, you can include an image, as Aoife has done, in fact. So in this page, there are some images that have been included. And then you can add text underneath them, and then you'll have a caption. But if you wanted to do something kind of more fancy,
and I do.
like say for example, you wanted like a table with three images in a row and then three captions under each image.
Yeah.
Then you would either you would probably use just a plain HTML table tag,
Mm-hmm.
and then you set that up in regular HTML, and then when the Markdown file is being processed into HTML, it won't process stuff inside of the HTML tags.
Okay. Let's see.
But the result will then be the Markdown, which is transferred into HTML, and then the HTML table, and then continuing like more HTML that's been converted from Markdown.
Okay.
So I just put a message into the Hangout window. So I think you can kind of see it. It's like on the right there.
Mm-hmm.
So if you click that, then you can see that there's a .layouts folder. And if you click into that, then you can see there's a default HTML, and you can click into that. Then you can see like this is very, very simple structuring of the page, which just has like the head, and then the body is just the contents plane. And then you can see that the title, the first 6 lines is just totally standard boilerplate stuff. And so that says, this is an HTML file, HTML tag, head tag, it's UTF-8 encoded. It says that the viewport should be scaled like regularly for like mobile devices, and then it says that if you're using Internet Explorer, then you should use like Edge mode if it's available. And then on line 8, you can see that there's a little bit of templating code, and this is an actual piece of code. There's an if statement, and so if this page has a title in its front matter, then include the page.title. Otherwise, include the site.title. And so when we created the config file, we didn't include a title, but when we created the page front matter, we did. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the little bit of templating on the title tag. And then if there was a description key in the config file, then it would be included as the the page's description. So that actually could be updated to use the same if logic. And then on line 11, then it says that you can replace index.html with the base URL, and that's again like a kind of like just like a it's like a kind of like a nicety thing. You don't have to have that line. It's just something that I saw in like another Jekyll thing. And then it enters the head on line 12. Then the body opens, and then on line 15 there's the content. And so that's the Markdown page's content, and then the end of the HTML page. And so if you copy and paste this file into a similar page.
Into, what do you want me to do?
Yeah, so in your repo, you want to create a _layouts folder, like with Finder, or you can do it internally.
So I still don't know enough about, like, I still need to learn all of the language for this stuff, so you're going to have to guide me through this if we're going to do terminology.
Okay. Yeah, so in the Finder.
Yeah. Finder. Yeah.
You can go back to the Bioline folder.
Okay, I moved it weird, so, I mean, I took it out of the sidebar, so I'll just find it.
That's it. and then create a new folder, _layouts, and then create a new HTML file in there. You can even copy that index.html. Or yeah, and then edit that file. So drag it to TextMate.
Oh. Okay. Should I call it something else? Just like default?
Yeah, so you save that file. You can call it default. Yeah, that's fine. And then in your introduction.md, open that up. And then in your Markdown, for the other guys, Markdown is like a little Markdown editor that shows you like a preview of the rendering as you play it. So if you go to the Markdown preferences, I think that there's a front matter thing. Are you rendering? Yeah, so detect Jekyll front matter. There we go. And so you can close the preferences now. So what that does is it means that your Jekyll front matter is shown as like a little table rather than interpreted as Markdown content. And so now at the top, after title introduction, you can add layout : default. And then save that file. And now, what I suggest is if you start up Sparkle Share, now let's see if Sparkle Share is going to get confused by that branch of stuff. So go to Sparkle Share, and then Sparkle Share, and then it seems to be okay. So now go to the GitHub website, and then go to your repo, and then click refresh. Yeah, great. So Sparkle Share has picked up the new layouts file. So you can see that on that blue line. It says like plus layouts. And so now if you go to the if you open that link in a new tab, and then go to the introduction. Yep. Hit the down arrow. So you can see that in the tab, it now says introduction. And there's no other visible changes because it's still just the Markdown file being processed. But this means that the HTML, like the default HTML structure, is now there. So if you wanted to add like a site-wide navigation tab or something, then you would add that to the default.html file, and then it would be shown on every page.
Cool.
So if we go back to Finder,
What's his problem?
and then go back to folder, yeah. So we have the making biorhyme page, and it looks like you've got two files there. So is there one without an extension, the markdown file?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay, so let's add .md to the file extension and call it like making dot just making lowercase.
Just making on its own. Is that what you're saying? Like that?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, whatever you want. You know, it doesn't matter too much. It's just that having spaces makes it more complicated.
Okay.
And then we need to add the front matter to that, and so we need to add the dash dash dash, and then layout colon default, and then title.
Oh.
So it's layout colon default, and then another line like title colon, and there's no capital T, and then you could make the title whatever you wanted. So you maybe add a space, because the title can be a rich, like a regular text. Yeah, that's it. So I think that your text editor, where you've written this, has changed those dashes into like n dashes, and that's why it's. You see, like in the preview, it's like making biorhyme, like n dash n dash n dash. So you need to replace them with regular minus signs.
Okay. Well, it was just like I said, it doesn't really matter anyway, so it's fine.
Well, if you do that though, if you do replace them, then it will turn that into a second level heading.
Oh, okay. Like that? Is that?
Well, yeah. I mean, you've got making biorhyme split onto two lines. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So then, if you save that file, then Sparkle Share is doing its thing. You can see on the top menu bar. And so now, when you go to the introduction page, you can double-click introduction in the URL, and then making biorhyme. Hit return.
No, I didn't call it that. What did you call it?
No, if you just making. Yeah, right.
Okay.
There is. Okay, so if we now go to the default.html page, in the Finder.
Yeah.
And then you edit that page.
In TextMate?
Yeah, in TextMate, yeah. So then above the on line 14,
yeah,
if you add like an unordered list, so like left angle bracket UL, right angle bracket, and then right arrow, and then return, and then left angle bracket LI for list item, and then you can do like open bracket A space href equals quote introduction.html, and then forwards to characters, right arrow, and then introduction capitals. And then if you type Command Alt period,
Okay.
Then it closes the tab that's open, and then you press it again, and that will close the next tag that's open. And then hit return. And then copy and paste that line and change introduction to making. And then on line 17, press Command-Alt period, and then hit return, and then hit save, and then go to the making wire line, third tab, refresh. Did you save a file?
Okay.
Yeah. And then refresh. There we go. And so now you can click those two links and hit refresh on that page as well.
Oops, sorry.
Forwards. Yeah. Hit refresh. There's the unordered list. So you see that unordered list is now appearing on every page.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So do you have any questions about taking it further from here?
Me, no, I think I'm okay. I just need to figure out how to style it. So
Yeah. So you would create style.css, and then in the default HTML, you would link the style sheet to that page, and then obviously that will be used on every page.
Yeah.
Where the Markdown front ladder says to use that template.
Okay, that's super helpful.
And Jekyll also has includes. So if you wanted like a fragment to be reused on some pages but not others, you can structure things with that. But you could also like not do that, and you could just duplicate new page templates for as many pages and times as you wanted. Yeah.
Thank you.
So the other thing was you wanted to sort out the Jekyll install locally.
Well, do I need
So-
to install it locally? Like,
So I don't think so. I mean, it depends how much development you kind of want to do, like offline. I mean, that's where I would find it useful. You know, if you're developing the web page on a train or something, then you can use Jekyll to process the Markdown like on your own computer. But if you're working online, you can just do it on GitHub.
yeah, I think I'll probably be working online. I don't think I need to install it. And
Okay. All right.
I mean, it's not going to stop me using a template. It's just literally to let me work offline, right? That's the only reason.
Yeah, I mean, if you were being kind of like, so because we're using Sparkle Share to push all of the changes to Git anyway, then it's I don't really see the too much of the benefits, because if you experiment with different stuff, it's fine. You know, it doesn't really matter.
Okay. Cool. Well, then I'm good.
Okay, so Zainab, your page, you've already kind of done a lot of this.
Yeah, ish.
Okay.
What I've done is I just went through initially I was doing it by myself, and I went through the tutorial that is on Jekyll's own website.
Mm-hmm.
So I just followed all of those steps, understood some, didn't understand many, and then when it came to sort of the part that I was unnecessarily picky about, which is the visual aspect,
Mm-hmm.
I sort of hit a wall, obviously, because I thought it would be easy, because there's a thing called pool, which sort of sets up everything, like your directory structure and your posts and everything, so you can just basically follow that structure. Except, obviously, what I had sort of done with my CSS through Typecast, every element was named something different. It didn't correspond. They were not sort of making use of the same language in some areas. So I could have sort of taken like 3-4 weeks and sort of taken online classes and learned about all that stuff. But then I was like, okay, let me just sort of delegate this to someone who can deal with it, and I can refocus on my work. And so far he's done what I've asked him to do. Now it's just about polishing a directory, because I think what's happened was, because he's not himself familiar with Jekyll, and he's done it in a different way. So when he did a pull request and I merged those, now you see sort of the file structure is kind of cloned or like nested within itself, kind of. So you see like sort of underscore layouts. You double click and then you see the same sort of file directory again, and then so it's right now it's a bit of a mess, but I've sort of I'm gonna wait for him to finish everything and then do like a cleanup and then upload like all my project files and then also publicize the blog itself and like.
Yeah, I think this. I mean, I'm just taking a look at it. Let me share my screen. Let's see. So, you know, looking at this, it seems fine to me. You know, I mean, this is using yeah, a kind of standard sort of, you know, setup. So you've got the config ML file, and it's got like more fancy stuff in it. But this is all, you know, basically these are just, you know, keys and values. And so where they're multi-level like this, then in your template you can do author.name as your, you know, keyword, and it will use this value there. And the rest of it, you know, is all kind of, you know, used by the templating code. So stuff like excerpt separator, you know, that's something that will be processed by your template code. So going back, you've got your layouts folder, and then you've got a default, and then that says the include head, and then include masthead, and then content, and then it has a footer here, you know, that's baked in. And then if you go back, you can see there's an includes folder, and that then has the head part, which has all this stuff. And it has a similar piece of code, you know, like if you have a page site title, use it, otherwise use the page title. And then you've got that CSS included there.
Where it gets a bit sort of messy is like when you go into the site or blog folders. That's what it's sort of like re-nested within itself.
Oh yeah. So that's normal. So it is
normal. Okay.
It's not normal to have that committed to the repo.
Okay.
So what happens is that when you run Jekyll locally, then it will create the .site folder, and it puts the generated content in there.
Okay.
So when GitHub runs Jekyll on their servers, then you never see this. But all that happens when you make a commit, and push it to GitHub in the GH pages branch, and there is a config YML file, then GitHub servers run Jekyll, create this folder which is completely static, and then push it to their web servers. And so that's it's very simple what kind of happens. So you can delete that file, and then there's a file you can make called the gitignore file.
Yeah, I know.
And so if you make a .gitignore file in your project directory, and then you include underscore site, then it will ignore that from Git going forward.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I see what you mean.
then you can just delete the folder because it's a completely temporary folder. And so yeah, you've got your two branches, and then this one's basically blank. So I think I put this thing to remove the master branch.
Yeah.
So I hope is it more clear now what this means?
Yeah. I understood what you. Yeah, it makes sense. I will do that.
Okay.
Once I upload the project files.
Yeah. Okay. And the _SAS stuff, I guess that's stuff that's been put in by the theme.
Yeah.
And then this is your custom stuff. Right. Oh yeah, this is the master. Okay. Right.
Yeah, this is the pull structure that then refers to all the other.
Okay. Nice.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of dummy text both in the website that is up now and in the directory that I have to sort of clean up and get rid of all the sort of default metadata and replace it with my own thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's all being done sort of by my friend right now offline. That I hope he's going to push it at some point this week.
Oh yeah, you want to change the MIT license stuff.
Yeah, that's all pull stuff. It's not my stuff. I'll get it.
Yeah. Let me think about that because so the pool stuff, the license for pool says that you have to include the copyright notice in your. All right. Well, yeah. So I'll let you look into that, and I can kind of whatever you end up with, I can make some suggestions.
Sorry.
How to deal with that. You'll need. I think that your license, the MD file, might become a little bit complicated because you'll need to include this for the pool parts, and then license your parts differently, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right. So, Gabe, do you have any questions?
No, I'm kind of trying to understand all this stuff, but I got to admit, I'm not so experienced with it. But I have a friend who's gonna be doing this stuff for me. I already talked to him. I'll concentrate on what I do.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, and he's more experienced with working on GitHub and stuff.
Yeah. So the GitHub system, you create the config file, and then you create markdown files with the contents. You add the front matter, and then you can work on the theming stuff if you want to, or you can use a third-party thing. And I think the Zeynep's theme looks quite nice.
I use Typecast. It's open source. If you guys want to check it out, but then you have to sort of reverse engineer all of the. Unfortunately, you can't import a already established HTML structure. They say that you can copy and paste like a web page and it will recognize the HTML structure, but it doesn't. So then you have to go, like, for example, with what I tried to do with Pool was like load the website, like launch the inspector, scroll over everything, and find out what that element is named, and try to replace those names in my CSS that I generated through Typecast. So I really like Typecast. It's like a nice sort of interface for designing, especially typographically. However, I think they sort of just, after the Monotype bought it, they sort of just stopped adding new features and sort of keep it running on the very sort of base level. And I understand that it's not like a popular idea having like a what you see is what you get thing sort of encroaching on web development or whatever, but it's nice. Like, you can use web fonts. I use my Typekit and Google web fonts that you just create like a nice typographic layout, then get a friend to figure out how to merge it with Jekyll.
Yeah, as weird. I thought that Typecast had like quite good export stuff, but I guess like you say, like the import is kind of advertised as working.
Export is fine. It generates like really nice CSS and everything. It's fine. The only thing is then, unless you go in it knowing what every element is named already or what already exists in your blog structure, your HTML structure, then you have to sort of retroactively change the CSS code so that it matches the HTML structure.
I see. I see.
Yeah.
So you needed to go and replace the I always say it's the collision between the pool theme and the
exactly.
typecast structure.
Yeah.
I see.
But I mean, it's really nice to work with if you guys want to sort of play around with
check it out.
CSS. And I did my CSS before I knew what platform my blog was going to be on. So if you know already what you have, then it will be much easier then, obviously, to create a CSS that works with your structure.
Cool. So I guess the other thing I wanted to chat with you guys about was more like about the sort of content structure stuff. So we discussed this a little bit on the mailing list. That there's this diagram that I had of the the kind of overall type design process that I did with Evan and Klaus a few years ago. I think in terms of sort of blogging the projects to provide a sort of case study for people learning type design, it would make sense to sort of write about the process as it unfolds at those kinds of like how do I explain that sort of like I guess like there's like a phase change, like where you're working on this aspect of it, and then that kind of fades into working on this other aspect of it. And I think that those are maybe the right kind of moments, and at which to make a post. And I think it might be better to work on the project without doing too much of the documentation. And just kind of note where those milestones are, and then go back when the type is nearly complete, and then kind of fill in, like flesh out the content in the kind of final like review phase.
Oh, I had a question actually about just when you for that purpose. You said that tagging would be really useful, so that like all of these micro commits that Sparkle makes for the development of the font.
I can't hear you well.
Yeah, I can't either. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
It's sort of muffled a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Is that any better if I lean?
Kind of, yeah.
Sorry. I thought you guys could hear me the whole time. That Dave had said that using tags would be helpful for every commit, so that I could, like if we have thousands of commits for each tiny little incremental change, that the tags would help us to identify which things to make an animation out of, or to pull that OTF to sort of use that as an example. Can you hear me enough?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to ask about tagging and just how.
Okay. So if you do the screen sharing, Aoife.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Zainab, did you want to add something?
Well, no, I was just going to say about the writing thing. The way that I initially had thought of it was kind of like almost mimicking the Reading curriculum, where you would be working on the design, and sort of at certain intervals you would have almost like an assignment, or I would assign myself to write about something external.
Right.
And I was doing that, and what you said sort of raised an important question in my head, which was like, okay, well, this is nice, and what I'm writing about has a lot to do with the technical production aspect of some of these other typefaces that existed. And what if, when I do get to that phase, I have more to add or more questions to ask? Then would I sort of rewrite the article that I guess initially
Yeah,
arbitrarily.
I think so. I think you know, the way that so Jekyll has blogging like built in, right? So if you
Yeah.
create a folder underscore posts,
Mhm.
and then you put in files with like 2015-07-20 dash, you know, making,
Mhm.
then Jekyll will expose that as a blog post, you know,
Mhm.
in chronological order. But I think that we're probably, you know, it's, I mean, that works when you have like, you know, 5,000 posts over 10 years or something, right? That like makes sense. But I think that these kind of project blogs make more sense as kind of like regular web pages,
Mhm.
where you, like, you know, as I kind of demonstrated with Eva, you know, you just have like a, you know, a kind of handcrafted top navigation list,
Mhm.
you know, with the key articles, and then they could, you know, themselves link into other articles. So, I don't know. I mean, that's just the way I would do it. You know, I'm kind of, you know, if you guys are stuck, then you ask me like, what do I advise, and I can tell you what I would do, or what I think I would do. But it's up to you how you guys want to do it.
You know, I mean, my sort of thing was less about how it would appear online and was more about how I would pace it out within the project itself.
Mhm.
And I think, like, because what I had thought was, okay, so I will be working on the design, and what I will initially publish is this article online at Typeruka, which is sort of one of the more sort of older contemporary incarnations of the style.
Right.
But then I thought, after your comment was, okay, well, I won't have introduced anybody to what I'm going through now, which is sort of the design and the research phase. I wouldn't have sort of displayed all the source samples of calligraphy that I used, and how I went through, sort of created a matching Latin versus the Arabic, how I went through that process. So I thought maybe it would be better to start with that, and then, as you said, sort of sprinkle in these articles on these other typefaces where they are most relevant in the actual timeline of the project.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm sort of kind of rethinking, like I said, the incorporation of the writing of other projects into the project blog itself.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think if I understood right, actually, because this point makes to something that I've been thinking of is, will I be documenting actually the project I'm working on only, or will I be documenting with the idea of just documenting the process of making and designing and developing? Because it makes a difference if it's only about the project, because then it's just blogging of the case of this project. Like, as an example, I have a project that's matchmaking, and I have a project that it's a total new typeface that I'm working on. It's not based on any other typefaces or like a Latin typeface or anything. It's just something that I'm coming up with. The process is different when it comes to the design. It's similar with the development, maybe, but I mean, like, this is it's kind of, it has difference in it. How can this work? How can you manage documenting both without causing confliction to the audience or to whoever going to be reading this documentation?
are you going to be talking about both projects on the same location?
That's also another thing that I'm not sure.
Okay.
Will I divide them? Should I divide them? Because I don't think I should divide them.
If they inform each other in any way, I would say, you know, keep them in the same place. But if they are sort of entirely different, where none of what you do in one affects the other, I would say, I guess it makes more sense to keep them separate.
Although if they're very, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
If they're very different, it might be useful to kind of thematically relate them. So, like, you're doing, like, how do you create harmony or something in the letter form, and
Mhm.
you have two completely different letter forms. It might be useful to see how you did that in both. Just from a learning perspective, like, that might not be so confusing as it is helpful, you know?
Mm.
You know. Although it's obviously way more work to try and thematically break down your progress to both typefaces, and I don't know, that would probably mean you have to develop them at a very similar pace.
Yeah, that's another thing. If you're working on them concurrently at like the same intervals, like let's say you divide your day first half on this project, the second half on this project, and that's one thing. As opposed to if you're working like 2 weeks on one and then 2 weeks on another.
Yeah. Um, I'm still not sure about this point, and I'm because one of the wikis that I can find it like really helpful is the one the Glyphs are making, the tutorial
Mm.
articles that they have. I like the way they showed it. I like the way they are archiving it. How it's like very search friendly. You can easily find any topic. I like this, but in the same time, I feel it's sure. I would like if I would do something similar to it or inspired by it. I would like to have it more open for conversations and like because by the end I'll be doing my like the way I do it. I'll be writing how I work on it, but it can be with just one of the ways.
Mm-hmm.
I would like it to be more a development process for the articles. Like if there's another affiliate designer who would like to contribute to it, who would like to suggest something that I don't even know, and I would learn myself while like logging that. To have
Yeah.
it a little bit more open, but in the same time to keep the same user-friendly structure for archiving, listing, searching through all these like topics.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that was like what you just said was like one of the main reasons why I wanted the project to have its own sort of container as opposed to just having it on the Google discussions. It's completely scattered and like if you want to just like go to like list me like all the sort of developments on this particular script, let's say. It's really hard to organize it, as I found. I don't know how you guys feel about that. So that's why I thought, okay, let's move this into a self-contained sort of package where everybody who wants to know anything and everything about this particular project can find it all in the same place. My question is, are you guys going to have a commenting structure on your respective sites? Because I was going to get Discuss or whatever, however it is pronounced, installed on the site so that I can have discussions on the site itself, as opposed to or along with the discussions on the forum.
Yeah, I mean, the way that the GitHub Pages works is that you can't have, you have to use a third-party comment system.
Yeah.
And so Discuss is, it's very popular. I mean, I've never used it, but that's fine.
I mean, it even has like a specific installation guide for Jekyll-based sites, so that's fine. I'm just wondering if you guys have thought about if or when you incorporate a commenting structure onto your website, how do you then balance the discussion on your own site for the project site and the comments forum in the Google group?
Well, so I guess I could say that the stuff about like the daily updates is more for just me, for just understanding the velocity of the project, and I think last year in asking people to make weekly updates, and mostly people didn't make any updates, and so projects got stalled, and nobody and there was I got confused about if the projects were going to be delivered this month or next month or in 3 months' time, and it's not a problem if you say, well, when we started the project, I said it would be 2 months, but actually I have taken on this other work, and it's going to be 6 months. It's not a problem, but I need to know, and so by having people say what they did every day, then it's helpful to me to understand like the velocity of the project. and it also means that there is a kind of teaching. There's like a didactic value in that because, say for example, like Johnny and Lippy, who've been very good at posting the daily updates, then there's this kind of clear log of like how they did the project, but you have to infer a lot because actually these 3 lines a day doesn't tell you much. And so I think.
I'm sorry. I would like to see a sample of this, like, of someone who did like a daily updates on the tasks they worked on. Like, I want to see how they did that.
I'm confused.
I'm saying I just want to.
The Google font forum.
You mean you want more detail than the 3 lines?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's kind of what I'm asking you guys to do.
Yeah, that's. I think that this is like the spirit of my question.
Yes.
So what you're saying, Dave, is it's fine or it's okay to balance it as so. You post a short synopsis of what you did per each day you worked on the project on the font discussion group, and then you have more sort of involved commentary and writing on the project's own page. In this way, there won't be any sort of, let's say, critique on the Google Font discussion group. Is that what I'm getting?
Maybe if you wanted to structure it that way. I mean, so for example, David Brezina says he doesn't want to post to the group because the discussions are not, they don't have any value for him. Right? That he can see no value in having Erin or you guys or anyone else critique his work because he's a great type designer and he doesn't need any feedback. Or he has his own people, to get feedback from privately.
Yeah.
So he's not going to post anything to the group because he sees no value in it, and that's fine. I mean, that's his position. Whereas,
I don't know about like seeing no value in it, but I do think that it does threaten your psyche sometimes. To keep like your sanity intact and participate in certain discussions.
Sure. No, I'm not insensitive to the fact that many people don't enjoy internet discussions and bickering on the internet, the discussions about the Arabic stuff that started off with the guy who's here in New York. I've forgotten his name now.
Saad.
Saad, right. There was this thing about Titus's, reading list, and he was like, "Oh, this is terrible, whatever." And I thought, well, yes, this is like classic, like white men on the internet arguing, and that it has this silencing effect on people who are not up for fighting.
Yeah.
I can appreciate that. But at the same time, when people say shit to me online, if I didn't want to respond, I didn't respond. I take the point that not everyone enjoys this endless internet discourse stuff. So something that you said there about taking the MATD structure and having these kind of like these kind of more academic essays. I think that's kind of maybe that's part of where there is there's a lack of clarity here, because what I'm kind of advocating for is this much more kind of incremental way of building up this knowledge, right? That if you make a few notes every day about what you did that day, and then at the end of the week you set aside like an afternoon to write a little journal article reflecting on what happened that week, where you then include some images and it's a bit more reflective. That's still qualitatively different to posing an academic question and then writing an essay to answer it, which is more like the kind of Reading style.
Yeah.
Because it's more like epiphenomenal. Like it's more like it's more descriptive of what happened rather than constructive, I guess.
Right.
But I think the higher level, the goal that I have in mind with this more descriptive approach is that at the moment, if we take, so Gabe has already finished a couple of Arabic fonts, right? So I think it's Cairo that you finished, right, Gabe?
Yeah.
So if you look at Cairo on GitHub now, you have this Arabic font file, and you basically have no idea about how it was created. So if you wanted to create an Arabic font, then there's no case study in this is how one was made.
Mm-hmm.
And at the University of Reading, at least when I was there, like in 2007, 2009, then they had these bumper folders from some of the projects, like in Jerry's office, and you basically, had these projects that people had done in previous years, where literally every single thing that they printed out that year, they put into a massive binder, and you had this huge, kind of like flip book almost, right, that you could just flick through, and you could see exactly how the project went down. And there are lots of essays about type culture and about the history of this script or that script, or this, that, and the other. And there's lots of stuff. There's lots of constructed content about type classification or about how to draw curves or whatever it is. But this kind of and it was something that actually I think that they stopped doing at Reading, as having it as part of the handed materials. It's just because you guys studied after me, so
We I don't think we handed in our printouts, but we did the reflection on practice, which is kind of like your summation of how your process was during the year, and
Right.
for that you would need to keep those archived in order to refer to them, but you didn't necessarily have in your printouts.
Right, and so I think that's kind of there's a lot of those RIPs are published, right? That if you want to get that kind of reflected higher level summary information, a bunch of that stuff's online. For lots of different scripts, and people are easy to contact on Twitter or whatever. So I think for me, there's this kind of technical possibility with version control of capturing all that process information. So all the testing document PDFs go in the repo, the font files go in the repo. And then that allows us to then do things like Jeremy's video script, where you can process that data, and so it is it literally becomes not just flipbook, but an actual movie.
Well, where is this now? Sorry, I don't know what you're talking about.
So on the group, Jeremy Hormus, who you may know, is a French guy in Paris, and he's doing a couple of Bengali fonts. And so he's using RoboFont and UFO to do this. And he's made a Python script to run through a Git repo and make a GIF animation or whatever format movie of the font. That's
really cool.
Let me pull this up. You can see it. Is it you seeing this?
Yep.
I think it's not working.
Nice.
And then he has another big one. There's the B movie. Is it flickering for you? It's weird.
It's kind of just
I don't know what's happening. I think the screen casting is interfering with it.
That's fine. I can look at it. Thank you, though. That's really cool.
Yeah. So yeah. So I think that's kind of, for me, if I was trying to, kind of blog a type design process, then these are the kinds of things that I would do. I would, be using Sparkle Share, or, committing the work like frequently as I was working, and mark kind of milestones with Git tags, and yeah, I can show you for that, when we finish the discussion, and then make time, schedule time in the week to write these kind of reflective posts about like what happened, or to if nothing particularly, if we're like still drawing glyphs, then if that's like not particularly interesting, then there's no need to blog that. Whereas like Aoife mentioned, she's been working on an S that was, and there's an S curve can be particularly challenging, and that is worth discussing.
Mm.
Whereas drawing, yet another, drawing the T or something is like, I mean, in any letter there are things there are themes that you can talk about. So you could talk about like, why is the crossbar, the T has a crossbar and a height of the letter that's above the XI, and like, how are these things related to the XI or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Some of that stuff's more interesting than others. I guess that's what I'm saying.
I think, yeah, I'm on board with that for sure.
I think especially with Arabic, where you have these these like initial, medial, final, and standalone forms, then there is like there's a lot of repetition of form.
Yeah.
These variations on things, and you don't. I mean, there's no point discussing all of the design decisions, because not all of them are in form. I think that's
only those that have like some kind of profound effect on the project, I guess.
Right. So I think, yeah, and I think that's that's, I think, background on my thinking about like why I'm asking you guys to try and blog the process, is to provide more of this sort of case study process information for people who are learning type design. And I think that that's kind of, the idea is that there's a lot of graphic designers like Gaber who are in the Middle East, who would like to design type and have no access to materials or learning resources, and that being able to say, oh yeah, there was this Ruka project and there's this blog that explains how it was done, and if you wanted to design an Arabic type, then read this website, and then you'll understand more about how to do that.
Yep.
That's the highest level.
This is why actually I'm thinking of, because I'm convinced more now that each project would have its own documentation. That's better actually. But at the same time, I think by the end of the year, after I'm done with like documenting the both projects and I have the both projects out and they are fine, they are working, I would sum up these, like the documentation of the process of the making, liberated from the exact case of the font, to be about the process of making type design, and to document it in a separate wiki or whatever the name you can name it after, like after having like documentation for this specific project. No, to have something that it's general, it's talking about type design in general, it's talking about how can you work on that, how these things like work, to be like collecting all these data and all these informations in one place, which is actually like needed for someone like me. Like I didn't get the chance to study it, and I had like it was and it's still a struggle to find like bits of information about this, about that, and I have to collect this from here, and like I have to collect the data from so many places to understand how things work, or to solve this issue, or to solve this issue. So I think if like I can collect all this in one place, that would be more helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what actually I'm thinking of right now.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. However, I think that kind of like more generalized information is kind of different in character to a case study. Which is inherently about a specific project. And because it's at least I don't know about Arabic, but certainly for Latin, then the generic information is very widely available.
For Arabic, this is not the case actually. For Arabic, it's so like it's very very minimal. Like if you look online to look for something, it's very minimal. It's very hard to find actually if it's there. And so most of the time we're just collecting data about the process of making Latin and trying to work that in Arabic. To actually try to collect data about it.
Yeah,
I know that
there's like quite a bit of resource on developing Arabic typefaces. So basically, in order to make them comply with the OpenType specification, but there isn't hardly any that sort of takes you from start to finish, including the design work, the sort of the calligraphic research, the drawing of the letters, the figuring out how they connect, etc., etc. So there's some resources that pick you up after you've designed your characters. So here's how to piece it together. But there isn't, for Arabic especially, like a expansive sort of start to finish guide or a case study, as you said.
And even if it takes you after design, it doesn't cover it all. Like I remember Khalid had something like that. Khalid Hosni, he had something wrote about on his blog about the process of making the Arabic typeface on FontForge, and it took part of the process, and he had it written in Arabic, and it's limited to part of the process, and this is mostly all you can find. Or like, no one zero talking about the process of design. No one. No one discusses it, even though there is a lot of topics that it's really hot topics that we need to discuss about it. Like, and I had that like case with Cairo. There is a lot of topics that even designers need to talk about. Is this right? Is there something? Is this element right or wrong? Can you develop it like this? Can you not develop it like this? There's a lot of topics, and no, there's no space to talk about this or to even like throw a stone in to start the conversation about it. So yeah, that would be really good.
Yeah, I mean, I think in any kind of decision-making process, you make your choice valid, or that much more valid when you can put it down into words and describe the motions that you went through, and in that way you can show somebody who might criticize you for making that particular choice, well, I didn't just like do this, I actually considered all my options and then sort of arrived at this particular result, and that can then hopefully provide more alternatives for somebody who will try to pick it up after you and say, oh, well, that person said this would be completely sort of unorthodox, but I've seen this person do it, and they've actually sort of expounded the reasons why they went about doing it, and it makes sense to me, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, I think this has sort of solidified the idea that was a bit abstract in my head about what I want the writing to be. Thanks. So, what now?
So I can take Aoife through the Git tying stuff. It's pretty straightforward.
The tagging.
I guess in terms of the content stuff, I guess maybe over the next sort of maybe 2 weeks, say like early August, we could do another call and kind of review like what you guys have posted.
Yeah.
I can. I mean, obviously, just email me on the group, whatever. If you have any more technical issues with the blog, it looks like you guys have got the blog's kind of up and running now.
That's good.
Cool.
Okay, so Aoife, so if you do the screen sharing, and then you go to the BioRhyme GitHub page on the browser. And then, go back to the Bot Making for Our Own project homepage. And then you can see it says 0 releases on the top tab. So and then you can see that there's tags. There's releases and then tags.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can click the tagging specific points of history. And then that explains tagging. So if you go to the terminal,
Yep.
and then do git space tag, you can see there's no tags. So then if you go back to the home page, to the web page, go down.
Oh, sorry. Is it here?
Yeah. And then so you can tag a given commit.
Oh, I see.
And then you can add -m, and then that will tell you. You can then add like a longer message. So if you keep going down. Maybe next.
Was this after? So part of what I was asking was this seems to be like tagging it as you commit it, but what about going back through what you've already committed and being able to access?
Yeah, if you scroll up, it says go down a bit. Tagging later.
But there's no way to kind of like preview what's in that file is what I was really getting at, because I've already done quite a lot of work and there's tons of stuff in there and I have no idea what that commit was attached to, like whether that was just changing the curve on the S or if that was like a completely different letter or whatever, and I'm just trying to figure out if there's a way that I can look at the file before I give it a name.
Oh, you can do checkouts of stages, like of different commits, and open those files and see where you were at.
Okay, so it's a checkout thing I need to do then? Is that what you're saying?
You can list your commits, and then you will have a commit like identification number, and then you can choose, like, let's say that particular commit was made in April, and then you can look at the commit identification number, probably a different term, but that's what I'm using,
right,
and then say checkout, and then put the number, and that puts you back in time onto that commit, and then you can open the file and see at what stage you were.
Oh, but it doesn't reverse it or anything. It just like shows it to me for a second, lets me open it, and then I can close it again. Is that?
Yeah. Or you can actually, if you want, which is kind of dangerous, you can actually revert permanently to that stage.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean that could be a way of you to find like if you want to like retrospectively figure out what you did on that particular commit.
Okay. Okay, that's perfect, and that answers my question. And the tagging looks pretty straightforward, so we don't need to go through that unless you guys want to.
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say exactly. Check out the documentation for Git checkout.
Okay, cool. That's great. Thank you. Awesome.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's everything. So yeah. Let me know how you guys get on. I'm going to be going to the Granshan conference, so I'll see Zen up there. I probably won't be online much this week, so if you email me and I don't get back to you, then don't worry about reminding me. Like, follow up, and I'll get back to you.
Cool. It's nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you too.
Nice to meet you.
Talk to you.
Yeah. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.